As you can see by the way I'm wrapped up, it's a little bit chilly today. One day we're getting nice warm weather in your t-shirt, the next minute you're wrapped up like this. I'm on a stunning reservoir today, as you can see. This is Southfield Reservoir. I'm actually here today doing some filming, and I'm catching up on one or two of the projects that I've got coming up. One of the things that I'm also here to do is just to test out a couple of rods. I'm off to Ireland in a few days time, and I'm competing in a competition over there, and I will be updating you whilst I'm actually out there with news about how I'm actually getting on over there, how it's fishing, and I'll be letting you know obviously who the leaders are and all that sort of thing. So if that's something that you're interested in, I will be doing uploads each evening whilst I'm over there. If you are interested in those, then make sure you subscribe to this channel, Fishing Life, and this is where I will be uploading those vlogs for you. So I've got quite a few things that I'm doing today. I'm doing quite a lot of filming for the Catch Fishing channel and for this channel. Lots of little tips, lots of little short clip videos for you, just passing on some of the experiences that I'm fortunate to get involved in, and just passing on some tips about the tattle, about the baits, and just various different things. Just a nice variety of fishing topics for you. I'm down here over on the early pegs at Southfield. I'll just quickly show you these. That is the walkway down from peg 10 right the way down. This is peg 2, and then we go around to peg 1. Lots of people ask about this whenever I upload anything about Southfield. We talk about it being connected to the actual canal system, and there you go. You're not going to see it any clearer than that, are you? So you've got the big expanse of the reservoir here. This is actually peg 1, and that is where it goes into the canal. Okay, and this can be quite a tricky peg to fish sometimes. I've never drawn it or anything, but because the whole reason why this reservoir exists is basically to top up the canal system. As the canal system drops and the lock gates open, this is a top-up reservoir that keeps the canal topped up, if that makes sense. And when the canal is running, this can actually flow into the reservoir, and quite often it will be running out of the reservoir back into the canal. So as you can see here, it's very, very shallow. All right, I'm stood here. I've obviously got waders on, but it's very shallow here. It's probably only less than 2 foot, I would imagine there, 18-inch maybe, something like that. And then just about where my finger is there, that is where it drops down into the canal. And the canal here, I think, is about, I'm guessing a little bit, but I'll bet it's a good 10 foot, maybe 12 feet deep. Whereas this reservoir here is only, just this bit here is probably on about 3 foot deep. So there's a big difference in depth there. But that is basically how the reservoir is connected to the canal system. So I just thought I'd show you that whilst I was here. But as you can see, it's a massive expanse of water. Now last week on my main channel, the Catch Fishing channel, I actually uploaded a video which was called Meat Method Feeder. As the name suggests, it's fishing with meat on the method feeder, and I'll put a link to that video at the end of this video for you and underneath, just in case you didn't see it. But on the back of that video I got asked quite a few questions actually, because it's quite an upbeat kind of a video. There were lots of key details, not key details, but lots of little details that I didn't include because I didn't want to slow down the momentum of the video. Now, two of the questions that I actually got asked, I'm going to quickly cover for you now, because I just want to shed a little bit of light on it. Only minor things, but there might be things that I know some of you are interested in, because you've obviously asked me the questions. So one of them was to do with the rod positioning, why I position the rods in the way that I do when I'm method feeder fishing, because everybody has got their own little way of fishing, but I do it for a couple of big reasons. And the other question was regarding how I just carry my method feeders and that sort of thing, how I keep my kit nice and compact. So that's what I'm going to share with you now. So as regards carrying my method feeders, this is all I carry now. I've reduced everything right down. That's a large EVA case, it's waterproof, all right, and everything in there is for my feeder fishing. So all I've got here is I've got a smaller EVA bag in there, or a small EVA case in there, and as you can see, there are absolutely loads of method feeders in there, some open method feeder styles in there, as well as the normal, more conventional method feeders. Okay, really nice big selection in there, different shapes, well, different sizes, different styles, and that is it. There are loads in there. I don't know how many's in there, but there must be easily probably 50 in there. Okay, over here is the method feeder hook lengths. That's all I carry, just one method feeder hook length case. All right, that just fits in there perfectly. So all my method feeder hook lengths are in there, and then underneath, as you can see, I've got 3 molds. It's all slightly different. That one's obviously a larger one, and then these two are a medium and small, but there's something there to fit every feeder in there if I need to use a mold. Okay, and then in this tube here, it's basically a homemade tube I've just cut down. It was actually a fast melt PVA tube, that's all it was, but I actually have cut that down, and that is where I carry all of the stems for my method feeders. Okay, so I've got some elasticated ones in there, some non-elasticated ones, and that strip there, in case you're wondering what that is, those are basically stick-on weights. All right, they are in 10 gram and 5 gram sizes, and I could just cut them off. It's adhesive, and I can actually cut them off, take the sticker back off, and I can actually clip extra or stick extra weight to my method feeders. So if you're ever in trouble, this one for example is 30 gram. If I ever felt that that wasn't quite heavy enough on a windy day, or I wanted to go further and I didn't have a method feeder heavier, I could cut off one of these weights and stick it to that base there. It's just something that can get you out of trouble sometimes when the conditions change. Now the rod positioning question it's something that, you know, we've seen quite a bit of a trend over the last few years that lots of people like to almost point their rod at the method feeder, and that's never really been for me. You know, perhaps it's because I'm a little bit old school, I don't know, but I love to have a nice angle in the rod and the tip when I'm fishing. I do it when I'm fishing a conventional feeder so I can read the bites properly, but even when I'm method feeder fishing, I like to have a nice angle in the rod. So I'm just going to quickly show you the setup of the way that I fish with a method feeder, and more importantly, why. Right, so that's the seat box. Okay, so you can see the angle that I'm set up there, and you can clearly see the angle of the rod. Now lots of people almost like to have the rod at that sort of angle. All right, and so they're almost pointing it actually at the feeder. If they're casting straight in front of them, they have the rod at that sort of an angle, and for some reason they prefer that. But when you've got your rod in that sort of an angle, you're not seeing the bites as well as what you are when you've got a much bigger angle in it, because, you know, the tip's only got to do that, and then it's almost pointing straight at the feeder. Whereas when you've got your rod over here, if your feeder's straight in front of you, you can see more of the bite. You can watch the bite develop better. All right, and that's the first reason why I do it. Now, when we're method feeder fishing, that's not always an issue, is it? Because usually the fish is either on or off. The rod just goes because it's a self-hooking way of fishing. So you're not trying to read bites like you do when you're fishing a conventional feeder. But the reason why I like to do it when I'm method feeder fishing is because we know that the fish are going to hook themselves, so the rod's just going to go. All right, now if you've got a nice angle, the rod is going to be able to absorb the fish better. So when the tip goes, you pick the rod up. Because you're over here, the rod is actually going to be bending to the fish, so the rod is going to be absorbing all the fight of the fish. And you know, when you've got the rod straight in front of you like that, if you are going to pick up, there's hardly any bend in the rod going towards the feeder, and that can cause, you know, it can cause hook pulls, and it ultimately can lead to lost fish as well. And sometimes, depending on the style of feeder rest that you're using as well, if you've got the rod straight in front of you like that, well, the rod can easily get pulled off a rod rest, similar to that when you're almost pointing your rod to it, if that makes sense. Whereas when you've got an angle in it, when the tip goes, the rod is actually pulling against the sides of this feeder rest. It's pulling against the sides rather than pulling up, and that's why that sort of a rod rest will hold the rod in place. All right, so your rod rest is very important anyway. I'm sure you all know that anyway. But another bit of kit that we now use is a butt rest that actually grips the rod. Okay, that actually grips the rod itself. So again, that's just another insurance policy that you're not going to lose your rod. These details can be very much a personal thing, but I've been getting lots of questions, these sorts of questions, about some of the more recent videos that I've been uploading. So I just really wanted to explain to you not only how I position my rod, but more importantly why. Okay, just so you know the reasoning behind it. If you haven't seen that video, I'll put a link underneath and at the end of this video for you. Hope you enjoy it. It was a very sunny day at Lawford Lakes. And don't forget, if you want to be kept up to date with our progress through the Irish Festival next week and regular updates on all our matches going through the rest of the year, hit subscribe so you don't miss out on any of those uploads. So thanks for logging on again, and I'll look forward to seeing you again tomorrow.